First of all, welcome to the channel and thank you for stopping by. When time permits, please consider subscribing. I would greatly appreciate it. What we have here is a bike I haven't ridden in 6 weeks. My 2020 390 Adventure. I have been leaving this in our place here in East Tennessee. And when I've come back during that 6-week period, I simply haven't had enough time to ride, or as is the case when I come to East Tennessee, it's pouring rain and thunderstorms during the day, and I don't really get to ride because riding in a thunderstorm, not a whole lot of fun. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to hop back on this bike that I have over 20,000 miles, almost 25,000 miles on, and I'm going to compare it to the 2020 790 Adventure that I've been riding for the last 6 weeks. Despite only having it for 6 weeks, I do have 5,500 miles on it, mostly in part to a 27 or 2,900 mile trip to Canada I took recently. So technically, I was on this to ride it down the driveway to the bottom of our property because this is the only shade I could find. But this will be the first time actually riding at any distance, and I really do want to see how it feels coming off of a 25, 27, 2,900, I don't even remember, trip just last week. 9 days on that bike. I am intimately familiar with how my 790 Adventure R feels, and I'm expecting this to feel very alien. But I think that due to the amount of miles I have on it, I really can make a relatively decent comparison. Let's find out.
Now, because I had this bike in Tennessee, I had to buy an adventure bike for New York. So I went ahead and picked up a 2020 790 Adventure R. And I have essentially, for the last 6 weeks, when I wasn't able to get down here, or during that period of time I did get down here briefly but couldn't ride. So essentially 6 weeks of riding a KTM 790 Adventure R versus my 390. I thought that now that I'm back on the bike, I have 5 minutes of riding it now, I would just let you guys know what I'm noticing as different. There's some good, there's some bad, there's some preference. Now, caveat here is, this is my 390 Adventure. I would go as far as to say this is the farthest from stock you'll find anywhere. I mean, if you can change it, I've changed it. Don't even think it, buddy. Dogs are friendly, but sometimes they get bad ideas. I am not on stock wheels. I am not on stock tires. I am not on stock front suspension. I am not on stock rear suspension. I am not on stock bars. I am not on stock mirrors. I am not on the stock seat. I am not on the stock screen. Again, if you can change it, I've probably changed it. I'm not on the stock fuel tuner. Oh, geez. So take all of this with a grain of salt and understand that the comparison is from my farkled out 390 Adventure compared to my moderately farkled 790 Adventure R. The key differences, I would say, are my 790 still has stock foot pegs. It still has the stock handlebars. But other than that, I have changed out a great number of things. It's not exactly stock. So, getting on this bike, what is the first thing, hey, my side, buddy, that I notice? That is, I'm up here. I mean, I am like sitting tall. When you're sitting on this bike, you're sitting on this bike. You are absolutely not in it. You are not low in the frame of the bike. The rider's triangle has me way up here. It feels bizarre being this high up. It really, really does. That said, I've never had a problem with it. It's comfortable, it's great, no issues whatsoever. But wow, It's tall up like my dual sport versus like my 790 Adventure. And the 790, I feel like I am, I don't know, 6 inches lower? Just, it seems bizarre. And the reason I feel that is I'm sitting here and I have tall bar risers. And these bars, which are essentially the same bend as the 790 Adventure bars, are 4.5, 5 inches lower. My arms would be up here on my 790 easy. And even more so than that, this console, it seems like it's closer to 6 to 8 inches lower down out of my vision. Like, this is the spot I have my Garmin mounted on my 790, and it's in my vision. It's sitting right there. All I have to do is ever so slightly lower my eyes, whereas this, I gotta look down. It's down there. And the distance. I feel like I cannot outstretch my arm and not touch the console. But here, my arm fully extended, I'm still 4 inches, 5 inches away from that. It's just like you're farther back and you're higher up on this bike dramatically over the 790. And I do think that if I were riding them back to back, that would create all sorts of uncomfortable issues. But I'm already starting to warm up to it here, and I will tell you, it gives me a more commanding view. I definitely am not blocked. I am looking over my mirrors, I'm looking over my screen, I'm looking over everything. I have so much field of view on this bike. It's fantastic. Now, the negative to this is, when I'm riding faster, I really liked being down here into the bike. And this one, definitely, I am more above it. Now, the caveat there is, this bike has better wind protection when using the exact same windscreen than my 790 does. I have, 15,000 miles with the GV airflow on this bike, and I have about 4,000 miles with the GV airflow on the 790. And the 790, despite you being more tucked in to the cockpit, you don't get the level of protection from the wind you do on this bike. So it would seem like being up higher that I would catch a lot more wind, but the superior aerodynamics of the bike, it's much better. Like, I am using the, I think it's the 7710 by GV right now. It's giving me easily as much shoulder and head protection as an airflow gives me on the 790 Adventure R. And that's bizarre because we're talking 5 inches, 6 inches, depending on how you have it adjusted, of extra height on the 790. But this bike, much better air protection. Oh, where am I? I'm just wandering around. So, what most people say when they have a 390 Adventure is it's underpowered. People put exhausts on these bikes, people put fuel tuners on these bikes, all chasing more power, more of what it gives you. I want to speed up. And I'm not understanding it. I mean, I just went on a nearly 3,000 mile trip on my 790 Adventure R. I think it's got 95 horsepower and you can feel every last one of them. But coming back to this, I mean, I like horsepower. I own an SC1. I have 150 horsepower controlled by only my right wrist. Not a single nanny on that bike. But with this bike, Hopefully we slow it down to the point you can hear me. With this bike, I can accelerate quickly enough, and I can go way into a $300 to $400 ticket. So if you need more power, I don't know what you're looking for, because it's not really more power. You've got plenty here. I can get as big a ticket with this bike as I can get with my 790 Adventure R, and I can accelerate damn near as quickly. So I think it's just wanting something that you probably don't understand you already have, because, well, we always want bigger, faster things. But again, the 390 Adventure versus the 790 Adventure R, they're both fast enough for you to lose your license. So, as a decent comparison. Now, another place where this bike truly excels is weight. I'm going to slow down so you can hear me better. So in case you couldn't hear that, another area that I'm truly enjoying being back on this bike is the weight. I'm going to say it right here, and I'm probably not going to make a lot of people happy. The lower fuel tanks on the 790 and 890 are not as good as people say. Is the weight lower? Absolutely. Does it feel way, way better than, say, a Tenere 700 with the gas tank up here, or a V-Strom 1000 with the gas tank up there? Yeah, absolutely. It feels better. It doesn't feel light. I mean, in no way does having that fuel down low make the bike feel lighter than it is. It's heavy as hell. When I put a couple of things on it, when I rode it with nothing on it, when I rode it with all of my camping gear for a 9-day trip, all 3 loadouts, heavy as hell. I got on this today and it felt like a dual sport. It's just 100 pounds is incredibly different. This thing is 20% lighter with all of my Farkles on it than my 790 Adventure R. And even though my fuel tank is up here and my 790 fuel tank is down there, I'm sorry. This thing is incredibly light compared to the 790 Adventure R. Again, 790 Adventure R feels good for its weight class, which is the well over 450 pounds with a couple of Farkles on it. But make no mistake, it is a heavy bike compared to a 390 Adventure. This thing is just a dream to ride. It doesn't feel heavy. It feels like what I want to consider a midweight. Dual sports, nice low weight bike. This midweight bike. Once you start hitting 500, and let's be honest, ooh, nice view. Let's be honest, once you are sitting at 500 pounds, unless you're 6'2", 210 pounds yourself of solid muscle, that's a lot of weight. That is just a lot of weight. And I like that this doesn't have any weight. Well, comparatively to a 790 Adventure, it doesn't have any weight. All right, I am getting much more comfortable with sitting up high. I'm going to tell you, it was bizarre for a minute, but now we're back to normal. My muscle memory is remembering how this bike is. Entering Greene County. I tell you, get off the main roads. It's quite beautiful here. Unfortunately, it appears to rain constantly. It appears to be hazy, hot, and humid constantly. But hey, every place has less than ideal weather. I just wish Tennessee had it a little less often. All right, so I hope that gives you an idea of the differences between the bikes. You are going to be sitting way up on this bike, and you are going to have, despite that, better wind protection. And while you're not going to have anywhere near the power of a 790, I was able to go from the 790 Adventure R, hop right on this bike, and I don't feel like it's slow at all. I can still do 90 miles an hour. If I was willing to do it, I could do 100 miles an hour on this bike. I have, under test conditions. And if I had to say the one thing that you will, if I had to say two things that make a 790 superior to the 390 for most people, again, if you are the tough guy with the mad skills and you want an off-road dirt bike, absolutely, go get a 790 Adventure R. That's the bike for you. But I think for the other 99% of people that are buying an adventure motorcycle, with two caveats, I think this is a far better motorcycle. It's going to do everything that those 99% of people will want to do. You want to go off-road? It'll do off-road. You want to go fast? It'll go fast. You want to be nimble? It's nimble. But this bike has two missing features that it could use. Number one is simply unfixable on this bike, and that is, while there is plenty of power to hit 100 miles an hour on this bike, and it won't take you long to do it, that power does not come on quickly after 80 miles an hour. So if you paid close attention to my pull earlier, you'll notice getting to 75 and 80 is relatively quick, but climbing from 80 to 90, it takes time. There's no other way to put it. It's slow. It takes a while to speed up once you're doing 80 miles an hour. And that is an incredible benefit of all that power on the 790 Adventure R. When I was doing 85 miles an hour following the Motophoto guys in Canada, I wanted to get a drive-by shot. I just pulled back and went from 85 to, we shall call it, very fast, almost instantly. I passed those three bikes like they were standing still, maintaining 85, and it took no time at all. That bike has an unbelievable amount of pull, regardless of how fast you're going. I mean, I won't say that I did it, but it's possible, I've heard, to pull back on the throttle doing 100 miles an hour and just feel like your arms are being ripped off. It really does accelerate all the way through the power band, where the 390 Adventure kind of tops out and then just says, yeah, I'm going to go faster, but you're going to need to give me some time. And the second missing feature on this bike is the lack of cruise control. It is fly-by-wire. The bike supports cruise control. There are at least two companies that produce cruise control for this bike, and cruise control is magical. I've taken this on a 4,500 mile trip, and well, yes, I can throttle lock it. Well, not when I'm coming to a stop sign. I can throttle lock it, but honestly, the throttle lock is useful when you're on flat ground for the most part. If you want to actually maintain your speed on any kind of incline or hills, this doesn't do much for you. You're popping it off and popping it back on so much that it is a horrible annoyance. And sometimes on longer trips, I just stop using it because I'm frustrated with on, off, on, off, on, off. And I just won't bother with it. Wow, went down a dead end, didn't realize it. Don't want to hit someone's fence. So yes, cruise control. When I pop that on the 790, magical is the only word that is appropriate. It is so nice to take my hand off, go up a hill, go down a hill, do a slight banking. It doesn't matter. Now, the computer's not as good as cruise control on some other street bikes I've ridden. It's not as smooth as a BMW 800. It's not as smooth as the cruise control on a Triumph 900. It does take a little longer to catch up and maintain your speed, which I think that might annoy somebody coming from one of those more premium electronics bikes, but it damn well works. It's pretty freaking awesome. And it's definitely a feature that I swear to God, cannot see myself buying another bike that does not have cruise control or an aftermarket solution that I can put on it. And let me tell you, this right here, that's getting an aftermarket solution, because now that I have taken a very long trip on the road with cruise control, oh, it's tough to live without. It's so quick to get spoiled and have cruise control and just say, I don't like you anymore. I really don't like you. Whew. All right. Well, it is partly cloudy after an entire day of rain. It's 4:10. I'm going out to dinner with my wife for our anniversary later, so I've probably got about an hour of riding around. So I'm going to enjoy my time on the bike, and then later on I'll do some kind of closeout. But guys, 390 Adventure. I think this is a better buy than an 890 or a 790, and if you're the guy that needs all the phenomenal cosmic power and all that travel and all this, that, and the other thing, great. Buy those bikes, they're fantastic. But if you want to go thousands and thousands of miles of riding, 25% of that off-road, and you want to have a banging good time, this bike right here, the 390 Adventure, is more than likely, in my experience, the better bike for you.
All right. I hope that gave you some idea of the differences I noticed between my 390 Adventure and my 790 Adventure R. At the end of the day, no one would be unhappy riding either bike. But for me, the 790 Adventure R is that bike for the guy that wants to do anything. He doesn't ever want to come up with a physical limitation of that bike. He wants to hammer it, he wants to hit it hard, he wants to make it through, and he wants to do it at top speed. And I don't think that's very many of us. And I think it's even fewer of us that can do it. We may want to, we probably can't. I'd say an incredibly tiny percentage of people can exploit a 790 or 890 Adventure R. I think you're buying all of this ability that we can't tap into. And with the 390, I think you're getting 80%, seriously, 80% plus of the ability of it. And I think that mere mortal men like me can go ahead and ride that bike anywhere. Northeast BDR, MABDR, SCAR, Smoky Mountain 500. I've seen them do California BDR. I know Matt has ridden overpasses that are 14,000 feet. The bike's not the limitation. If you are willing to work with it, throw in some Farkles, it's going to take care of what most of us will ever want. And I think at the end of the day, for me, a 390 Adventure is the bike to have. And honestly, I think for you, it probably is too. All right. If you stuck around this long, I really appreciate it, and take care.